Hey guys, welcome to this conversation. This is not a segment, it's just a chat we're having. I'm here today with Danielle Roxon. I'll explain a bit about who I am in a minute. But it's a conversation with, and I'm not sure if it's going to be a segment or if it's going to be multiple segments. It's just literally me talking with somebody. So I'm Michael, I'm the director of OGGM, our God-given mission. And my role essentially is to make sure the charity is moving in the correct direction, things are moving well. I assist all the different trustees where I can to produce content and to just make sure that we're staying true to our vision and our mission. And I'm here with Danielle, who actually used to be part of OGGM for a bit. Danielle was one of the founding members.
Literally,
kind of there at the start.
Yeah.
And now Danielle looks after Transcend. She's also working with TLG, Transforming Lives for Good, a charity based up in the north in Bradford, I believe. That's where the headquarters is, but they operate across the UK. And she's done a degree in politics and sociology. She's also done a master's in education policy. So here's a woman who's kind of like doing lots of different things with your hands in different pots, if you like. We're gonna have a chat about something pretty serious, but I think needs some more people speaking about it. We had a chat with this off camera that we need more people to speak about this topic. And it's an issue of churches, cults, different kind of organizations, bodies, and I guess the general health of the body of Christ at large. So with that being said, I'm going to give you the opportunity, Danielle, to just speak about what you think, introductory remarks, and then we'll get into some of the questions and try and tease out something that maybe God glorifying and edify some people watching.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing that me and Mike were just basically speaking about is we have quite a few friends, people in our lives, I think, where we all kind of found God or our relationship with God similar time. So imagine we are just kind of fresh, new, we're ready to absorb, the word, we're ready to absorb who God is. And I think we've seen how different doctrines have basically taken over people. And so some people that I know have been involved in a certain church where at first it seems great, but then you start seeing habits of they don't want to listen to anything other than their pastor. They don't want to listen to, any type of book or read any type of book or watch any type of thing or even want to go to any other worship event outside of their own church. And so it's kind of like, okay, there's a line between I'm just part of my church and I want to do what my church is doing, and then there's a line between where it's like it seems like my church is the only church that is the correct church and all other churches are not doing it the right way, and so therefore we are superior, we are and then there's quite of a worshipping of bishops, worshipping of pastors, worshipping of the leaders of the church as well, and I think it's just an issue that really needs to be addressed.
I mean, so before we get into this, because you're speaking about an issue that occurs in 1 Corinthians, this idea of sectarianism, where people kind of, where church, the body of Christ, which is meant to be unified in the same mission and purpose. Remember, the Bible says the same blood that saved me is the one who saves you. So we're brothers and sisters by blood in Christ. That kind of unity we've seen kind of disseminate over the years, and I think now what we're talking about is online, lots of churches kind of competing against each other and fighting and going back and forth, and we're seeing literally something that Paul addressed in 1 Corinthians, which we're going to get into. But before we go there, it will be interesting to find out what you do with Transcend. So with Transcend, you guys put on gospel showcases, you put on events. Is there? I mean, have you seen this issue in that role, like in the ministry you run? Have you seen this issue arise at all? This kind of sectarian thing.
So with Transcend, we are not a church, okay? We are just a group of young people, and we seek to encourage the youth of today to go above and beyond for Christ through filming, through production, through theatre production. So obviously we're from different churches, we're from different backgrounds. So I think for me personally, it's funny that you mentioned that, because looking at my team has evolved. Some people have come, some people have gone. And I've noticed that there are particular churches that some of my members were from, and they would be part of Transcend, which is completely fine, just like a parachurch, just an organisation. But because of what is going on in their church, it consumes so much of their life, they can no longer be part of anything other, and they tend to be the people that have left so far. I tend to see that. That's quite interesting, because I mean, on the personal level, it's something that really gets me, because like you said at the start, we have friends who we've kind of, with for want of a better word, lost to some of these churches. Now, just in case anyone from a church or cult or and the degenerate movement is watching and thinking, say the name of the church. To give this video the right kind of angle it should have, we as Christians have to, before we point fingers and say something's wrong with this church, something wrong, we're going to look at ourselves.
do we have an understanding of the gospel, the true gospel, the explicit gospel shown in scripture? Do we believe in God? Do we trust in God? Are we a lover of the bride of Christ, which is the church that God is coming back for, Jesus is coming back for? Like, what can we do in and of ourselves, or in ourselves, to kind of combat this issue? Because the only reason, and I say this, quite frankly, the only reason cults are able to arise is if we have a malnourished body of Christ. So if you have young people who are saved, who haven't been fed correctly, who haven't been taught correctly, then they are, quite frankly, more susceptible for falling into devices of the enemy.
Yeah.
Now we have to be very frank about these things, because if something isn't godly, it's demonic. So we are speaking about demonic forces that unfortunately have captured people because of lack of teaching. So let's kind of start and go back and ask ourselves, so how do we prevent these kind of churches from, or these kind of cults rather, from forming, and what work do we have to do with kind of nominal Christians, normal Christians as it were, to make sure they don't fall prey to some of these churches, because they're not new. In Corinthians we saw the same thing. In first century Palestine, you had lots of different kind of sects, the Bible called them, who were trying to use Jesus' death as a way to make more money, or they were trying to say that, if you remember in First Corinthians, some were saying that Jesus didn't actually die, he didn't resurrect, some were sleeping with their sisters, some were sleeping with their stepmothers, some were drinking alcohol, somewhere. There's a lot of stuff happening, so this isn't new, it's not new at all. How do we combat it? How do we combat it, Danielle?
I think, do you know what it is? I think I was looking at this thing called reach versus impact, and it's this type of thing where we think, we need to reach 10,000 people, we need to get on a stage and be able to reach so many people, but really and truly we need to focus on impact. And so even if it's one person that we can speak the truth in, we need to trust that that can have a domino effect, because naturally my hope would be like, just go to the leaders of these churches and go to and be like, listen, you need to go back into the word that you're preaching. But is that really gonna work? I think we need to start with the one, we need to start with a few, even just doing these kind of videos where we're educating people, going back to the word. And we're not saying that we have the answer. We're just saying, go back to the word, go back to who your God is, and really see, am I following my pastor? Am I following what they're saying? Is it third party God, or is it me and my word? And knowing the truth.
That's all beautiful. The Credo Sola Scriptura, which means the Bible alone. As a Christian, the Bible must be your final authority. You must not lean on any man's understanding or any experiences you have. You should subject all of them to the Bible. So when it comes to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and I guess the first thing we have to do is ask ourselves, what is the gospel? What is the gospel of Jesus Christ? And we can't trust anyone to tell us, or anyone's stories. No, we've got to look at the Bible. What does it say? And so are you saved on a works-based salvation? Are you saved on a this base, or do you have the authentic gospel? So that's my first thing, I guess, is, do we know the gospel? You cannot be saved by something you don't know. So it's very important for Christians, us as believers, because there's such a seductive thing that wants to make us point fingers and go, here's the church, here's the 5 churches that are wrong. It's like, don't do that. You fall into the trap. The devil actually gets more glory in that, because what happens is we start dividing and fighting and combating, and before you know it, you don't know who's right. You know what something my mom used to say a long time ago is, if you see 2 people fighting, like on the kind of, I'm trying to do this in English, she said it in Yoruba, but if you see 2 people fighting and there's like dust there, you can't tell who's right and who's wrong, because they're just fighting. And that's the issue with fighting on the floor with people. You don't really know he's the right one, he's defending you don't know, they're just 2 people fighting. So we must resist the urge to get into the and to start fighting. No, stay away from them and speak to them, speak to the truth in that situation. So you spoke there about kind of stopping this notion of, we've got to save 1 million people, and just focusing on one. How do we save people one at a time, right? What I want to ask you then is, so suppose I have a friend who I think is in a cult. I think he's in a weird degenerative movement. Are you saying I should just try and speak to him and try and talk to him about it? I mean, what's the actual way you'd say this is how, or what's the advice you'd say, here's how you do it, here's a really kind of workable way you can really help that one person?
I think, do you know what, like, for me, because this has happened to me before, where I've had a friend and this happened, and I was kind of like, oh, well, at least they're a Christian, like, we thank God. Literally, that was literally my view, was like, well, at least they're a Christian. And I think, for me, if we're going to go back to the truth, like, not Danielle's opinion, not Mike's opinion, but what the word of God is saying, and then we need to start doing Bible studies together. We need to start communing. Like, let's share a scripture. Let's see what God is saying, because in that we'll be able to unpick our own doctrines, our own thoughts of the way the Bible is, and then we'll actually be able to come to the truth. And it's not like oh, you need to fix up, this is wrong, but it's about, because we've opened a foundation, we've opened an environment where we are now studying the word.
Can go back and forth,
we can go back and forth. The truth is there. Yeah. It's
difficult. It's difficult because, as you said, that I'm reminded of someone I know who I tried to speak to, who kind of just shunned me and ran away, because that's a crucial feature of people who might be stuck in these movements, is they never want to talk, never want to pray together, they never want to seek God together. It's like, I don't want to speak to you, and I run away. And that can make you feel something wrong with my message, something wrong with what I'm saying. It's like, well, no, nothing's wrong. This person just isn't in the place to hear right now. So then, if you're in that scenario, then you try and reach out to the one, as you said, you try and speak to them, get them on board, and they kind of show you the cold shoulder, they don't want to speak to you. What next?
When they run away?
Yeah, what do you do next?
Boy, you gotta pray.
It's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, because obviously you don't want to force them, and like, God, you go out that you may save some, like you're not gonna save them, and it's a really tough decision, because naturally your flesh wants to be like, well, at least I tried. You know what I mean? But then obviously, you still gotta be friends with them. You can't just leave them in the dark. So it's a tough one. It's
really tough. So let's kind of pause that kind of discussion there, and kind of open up a new one, I guess, which is, how do people identify if they're in a cult? So of course we know that God guides and leads us in all truth. In John 16 we learn that the seal or the mark of a believer is that they're infilled with the Holy Spirit, which is this standby, this counselor, this advocate that follows them around, that's inside of them, that speaks the word of God, that really helps them to understand when they're in error, that teaches them about sin, that convicts them. Christians always say, it's the Holy Spirit that convicts, right? And that's what happens, is that the Holy Spirit leads us and guides us in all truth, right? So we're not saying these little bits of advice is going to change your life and help you kind of leave a cult you're in. What we are saying, though, is that there are certain things you can look out for, because that's the thing about deception. You never really know you're being deceived. Everyone expects the devil to come in horns and to say, hey, worship me, and we're like, that's not going to happen. It gets way too easy. What you'll see is something dressed up in so much good. Someone who's really humble, really meek. Everyone's like, such a great guy. All these different, but whilst there are all those beautiful things to the eye, there's a dangerous center that if you're not careful of, you'll be kind of, you'll be duped by. It's having the form of godliness, but denying the power thereof is what the Bible calls them. So, what things should you look out for? Let's go through a list of things to look out for, to say, okay, cool, maybe this is a bit worrying. Maybe I should pray about this. Maybe I should confront someone about this, or discuss it with friends. What's the key features you'd say are endemic to a cult?
So I think, as you said, it's all very undercover. It really starts off with the kind of undercover manipulation of control towards the leader. So what you would find a lot is they would be hailing the leader much more than God, and it's almost like God is their leader. So they believe in God, they believe they're like Jesus, but it all points to the leader. Oh, our leader this, our pastor this, our bishop said this, so this is it. Our pastor said this, and they're quoting their pastor much more than they're quoting the Bible. They're quoting what their pastor said much more than they're quoting what God had ministered to them. When they're faced with situations on what to do, my pastor said this, and it's about, okay, great, so what's God saying? And they can't tell you. Okay, great. So when you prayed about it, no, but my bishop said this, and it's like, right, then where you've got a fantastic relationship with your bishop, you have no relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's unfortunate, because whoever you're in a relationship with is gonna come. You're gonna know who people are engaged with. You're gonna know what people consume. And so if people are constantly consuming their leader, then you need to now question: is your leader your God?
That's really important. Like that is one of the key features, I would say. It's charismatic leadership. And now not every leader that's charismatic is a cultist, but when you have a leader that kind of has a very tight grip on the people, and I've heard of churches that before they travel they have to get confirmation from their pastor, and if he doesn't say, if he says they can't travel, they don't go. These are all signs to look out for and to say, oh, this is a bit weird. Why do I have to seek permission to travel?
Just go on holiday
it's a bit weird, right? But here's the thing about what you just said. You said that when you honor, so to speak, men more than you do God, you're in error. But the issue is people don't have a good definition of what honoring is. So I've gone back and forth with a certain person who I said, I think I must have tweeted out of frustration. I must admit, why is your pastor your DP? Because I went, or your display picture that is. I went through my WhatsApp and I kept on seeing pastors on people's DPs. So I was wondering, why are they your display picture? I found that a bit kind of troubling. And the message I got back from somebody was like, oh, I'm just honoring my pastor, I'm honoring him.
Yeah.
And this is a topic for another conversation, but it's basically misplacing honor. It's one thing, so honor, and to be kind of very frank with it, it's respect. It's about respecting someone's position or respecting the kind of structural position someone's put someone over your life, right? But there's a thing. I love spoons. I understand my need for them. But ultimately, it's the person using the spoon that it's all about.
Yeah.
Your pastor should be a springboard for greater worship of God.
Yeah.
Your pastor should be a springboard for greater understanding about who God is. You should see your pastor and go, oh, pastor, you're so amazing. And thank God for and you worship God some more. You fall on your feet and you worship God. But I guess what happens is, the leader is so big that he kind of usurps the position of the.
If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be where I am. If it wasn't for him,
and unfortunately, when you do that, that's really important, because when there's a pastor that's too big, whether in his personality, and this is why pastors are to blame. When you are too big, that you start to obstruct people's view of God. That's a problem. When they can only see God through you, that's a problem. When they only learn through your sermons, that's a problem, because you haven't built sheep, quite frankly, that are hungry for food wherever it is. You built food that are dependent on you. Weak leaders build dependent followers.
Yes.
Good leaders build other leaders. Because that's the thing. Disciples create in their own kind. Disciples make disciples. This is why Jesus in Matthew 28:19, Mark 16, before he left the earth, told the disciples, go and make other disciples. That's what I've created you to do. Not to make dependent followers who are following under you and they don't know what they can't see for themselves. You're building dependent, weak believers. So that's one thing. What's the other thing you'd say?
I mean, just even carrying on from what you're saying, I'm even seeing how even just you working in your purpose and what God has called you to do in particular can be shunned down a lot from these kind of cults and these kind of churches, because what you find is you know God has put something in you. You know a kind of gift God's put in you, or initially it's come from young. It's come from young, where from as young you know what God has put in you, whether it's that business idea, whether it's to be a certain this or to be a certain that. From day one, you've now joined this church, and now all you're getting is you're called to be a pastor. You're called to be this. You're everything that you actually know was initially in your heart, all your desires have all flushed away, and now it's like your whole goal in life is to become a pastor. And it's almost like for you to do ministry, it's only to become a pastor, to lead a church.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And again, I think it comes from the misunderstanding between what are worldly desires and what are desires in righteousness. What some of these churches will tell you is that, oh, your desire to be a banker is worldly. It's a worldly desire. Actually get rid of that. You should want to be a pastor or an evangelist. Those are only things that glorify God. And that's a big issue, because that's not true. Here's why. Because the mission field in the days of old was seen solely as where the gospel hasn't spread before. That's it. Now, these days with social media, I know these kind of other means, the gospel has really spread to lots of different places. I think there's about something like 20,000 unreached people groups on the earth. That's all that's left. So everyone thinks that's on the mission field. That's not true. The mission field can also be your place of work. Yeah. The mission field can also be, whatever business you create. There's lots of different mission fields, and that's the thing about ministries. You've got formal ministries and you've got private ministries. Every single person has a calling. I believe that's true, and so some people have pastoral callings. They're called to be pastors. Some people have evangelistic calling. You are to fulfill your callings privately way before you're commissioned publicly. So for instance, you can be a pastor amongst your friends. You can be a pastor within your family. You could be an evangelist. You could be the one in your friendship group that checks up on everybody, that cares for people. You could do that. The only way to be a pastor is not to be a pastor within a church setting. That's a very formal public ministry. And if you're waiting for a public ministry to begin your proper ministry, chances are you're not after the ministry, you're after the title. And that's the problem. So these are things we have to kind of tease out. Now, I have a certain calling. I'm trying to live in it right now. If I get called publicly, I'm happy to do that also. But the idea that the only way I can please God is by being a pastor within a specific church, that's just not true. That's just not true, and it's important to get that out there. The one thing I want to speak about, which we spoke about at the start, is sectarianism. This is a big one, and we wrote an article about this, and this is one major thing I think we ought to think about more. Some churches, unfortunately, and sometimes it's deliberate, sometimes it's accidental, fall into the trap of 1 Corinthians, where people go, I was baptized by Apollos, and I was baptized by Paul, and people are essentially fighting, saying that our church is the best church in the world. That's weird. That's kind of akin to different parts of the body fighting. Say, a head going, I'm the most important, and the legs like, yeah, but I'm the most important. It's like, no, you're all parts of the same body. Yeah. If there's a church that drives you to be sectarian, to remove yourself from other people who don't go to your church, doesn't encourage you to reach out, to partner with other churches, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, and I think taking note when he says reach, because some people may listen and be like, oh yeah, but our church reaches out to get people to come to our church. Do you see what I mean? And it's all about your church. And I think, yeah, it's understanding that the body of Christ can look in different ways. You can be a toe, a finger, whatever it is, it all makes up the body. And so understanding that, yes, one church might have their own denomination, one church, but we are all one body. Because you're Catholic does not mean, do you see what I'm trying to say? We are all one body. God, okay, yeah, let's not go into that. But yeah, we are all one. Let's not touch it.
I'm going to be honest.
But we are all, but we are all one body anyways. And that's what God desires for us to be one. Absolutely. And I think, I think it's part of the leadership manipulation cult that preachers will use to basically say, to basically grow their church at large, to basically get loyalty. To get loyalty for their members, they will say that we are the only ones that are doing it right, and these people are like,
it's really bad because it divides the church, as you said, and division. You know, if you think about it, in 1 Corinthians, when Paul came and there was division in the church. Don't forget that there was lots of other things happening. There was people drinking communion and getting drunk.
Yeah.
There were people sleeping with their stepmothers. But what Paul confronted was division. He said there is division amongst you, because division is the key tool of the enemy in breaking up the body. If you can get a body that hates itself, it's divided, it will eventually tear itself apart. But that's the thing about division. Divisions is bad when you've got one body fighting. But we've got to be very careful. Cults are not part of the body of Christ. They are stuff that needs to be cut off. They are funguses. They're things who don't look like God. They don't look like the body. They try to look like it, but they're not. It's the same thing as when you get viruses that kind of mask themselves as something else and they try to enter the body. They're not quite that thing. So sectarianism is that major feature that cults will use to say, listen, stop speaking to people outside your church. Only speak to people who are part of our church. And now that we have this whole kind of branded church thing, where churches kind of like McDonald's, they have lots of different franchises. People think linking arms with other churches means linking arms with other churches within the franchise. And it's like, that's not what I mean. I mean linking arms with the global body of believers, Muslim, Spanish Christians and Chinese Christians. Like, can we link arms with them and share the same love for Jesus, or are we all stuck in our own kind of little bubble? That's super important also. I guess as we close, Danielle, of course this is an issue that it gets us both quite emotional, it gets us all quite passionate, and because of that we might come across a certain way. What kind of advice would you give? What kind of parting advice would you give people? I want you to speak to two people. I want you to speak to those who might be watching this with a hard heart going, no, I'm watching this to see this guy say my pastor's name so I can defend him. Speak to them. And speak to guys who might be not in error, but need to wake up and start to call out these different things and start to kind of take a stand. So I want you to speak to those two guys. Okay,
so I'm going to speak to the one that notices the error.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would just say, I would encourage you with impacting the one that's close to you. You know, that brother, that sister, that friend or whatever, and you see these things, and it's, us keeping silent, we're silently accepting it. We're not doing anything about it. And so even if it is messaging that brother and just being like, at the end of the day, you love them. That's why you're reaching out. If you didn't love them, you wouldn't care. You would leave them to just go astray, but you love them. And I think I would encourage you, first of all, to speak to them one-on-one. Make sure that they know that they trust you. Make sure that they know that you love them. Make sure that they understand that you're not doing this from a place of, oh, I've got the answer and you need to get out your church. But you're generally doing this because you want them to be close to Jesus, the Lord Christ and Savior. Him alone and Him alone, not any other thing. To the people that are watching this that are thinking, with their hardened hearts, no, I disagree, I mean, what I would just say to you is, I'm going to pray for you. I feel like that's a stereotypical Christian answer. No, but genuinely, I just pray that you will meet with God and speak to God on your own, and that's what I pray. I don't pray for you to just keep going into your church and keep getting consumed. I want you to go into your room, close that door, open the word, and just be like, God, speak to me and show me your truth. Show me your truth and help me to see your truth. Open my eyes if there's any kind of blind spots. Open my eyes to that. Open my eyes to where I might not see, where I might not agree. Open my eyes to that. Help me to see the truth, the one and only truth. God wants that. God is searching for committed people. God is searching for people that seek him. So God is going to reveal that to you. So that's standard. So I think you making yourself available, you on your own, and saying, God, teach me your truth, show me your truth, whatever way, make it clear to me. I know he will do it.
That's good. That's so good. I was reminded of 2 Chronicles 16:9, which we were looking at earlier today, that said that God is searching to and fro for people's hearts that are blameless towards him, which means, when God is looking for those who are searching for him. Now, if you could jump to the New Testament in John 4:24, we learn equally that God says he's looking for worshippers who will worship him in spirit and truth. Because God is actively searching for people whose hearts are who really, really want him. Who really, really want him. This notion that, it's going to be impossible for these guys to leave. It's like, no, it's possible. So I'm going to speak to the latter group first. If you're watching with a hardened heart, thinking, hey, I don't really believe any of this kind of stuff these guys are saying, I just pray that God would grow in you a genuine desire for him. Because a genuine desire for God, the God that we know, it's met by him. He meets that heart and says, I'm going to give you strong support, is what his word says. So I pray that he would minister to you in the most purest way he knows how to, because my words can only go so far. I understand that I'm full of issues and I've got problems. You might look at me and go, yeah, but you got problems. But hey, we serve a perfect God who can really meet you at the point of your needs. So that's my prayer, is that God would really meet you and that he would grow in you a desire for him, a genuine desire for him. And I guess to those who are watching, their friends or their family members or people they don't know enter these different movements, understand one thing: you will give an account for every word you speak, but you're also going to give an account for every omission. Every time you could have spoken that you said nothing, you're going to give an account for, because you cannot claim to be a lover of truth and watch your brothers and sisters in error and sit still. The two things are true: either they're not in error or you're not a lover of truth. But the idea that both can exist is just not true. So ask yourself, who in your life right now are you concerned with? Have you prayed about it? Have you reached out to them and said, listen, let's study, let's talk, let's share, let's try and, we're brothers and sisters, let's try. Have you done that? If you haven't, do that straight away. Watching this video now, text somebody and ask them, can we talk about God? Can we study the Bible together? I'm concerned about you. This church you're at, I'm not too sure it's for you. Like, really reach out to these guys, because that's the thing. The earlier you can catch these things, the better. Once it's too late, when people are being deployed in different places and it becomes a lot more difficult. But right now, you can spot things and nip them in the bud straight away, and that's my prayer, really. Right? But guys, that's it for today. I'm going to try and host lots more conversations. This is Daniel, like I said. Follow Transcend, be aware of what they're doing. They're doing amazing productions all across the country, helping people go above and beyond for Jesus, for the gospel. So do follow them. And of course, at OGGM, you're more than welcome here. We've got tons and tons of events and mission trips and stuff we do. So of course, get involved and just my passion really is that we would provide platforms for young people to pursue God in the most honest and pure way they can. That's my real kind of desire. So thank you for watching.
Thanks,
leave
guys.
a comment, share with somebody, and until next time.
Bye.